The chamber was silent when Ambassador Park Ji-woo entered. She walked with measured steps across the polished floor that seemed to stretch forever. Above her, the dome displayed a perfect view of the stars, thousands of them spinning slowly in the eternal darkness. Around the circular room, representatives from 12 different species sat in their designated sections. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked almost like clouds of gas held together by force fields. They all turned to watch the human woman as she made her way to Earth's small platform. Commander Han Mino stood beside her, his military uniform crisp and perfect. His face showed nothing, no worry, no fear, no anger. He had learned long ago that showing emotion in this place was a mistake. The galaxy's older species viewed human emotions as a weakness, a sign of their youth as a spacefaring civilization. 37 years. That was how long humanity had been part of this galactic community. Some of the species here had been traveling between stars for over 10,000 years. Lieutenant Choi Dayan sat at the communication station in the back of Earth's section. Her fingers moved quickly over the holographic controls, recording everything, sending encrypted updates back to Earth. She was young, only 26, but she had already learned to read the room. Today, the room felt wrong. The air seemed heavy with something she could not quite name. Senator Velther rose from his seat in the Wordless section. He was tall, nearly 3 meters, with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. His voice boomed through the chamber, translated instantly into every language by the Senate systems. "We gather today to address a matter of galactic security," he began, his large eyes fixed on the human delegation. "Humanity has been among us for less than 4 decades. In that time, they have expanded at a rate that concerns many of us. They have built weapons, ships, and defense systems at a pace that no species in recorded history has matched." Park Ji-woo felt Minho tense slightly beside her, but his face remained calm. She kept her own expression neutral, waiting. Velther continued. "We have watched them fight wars among themselves, even as they reached for the stars. We have seen their capacity for violence, their aggression, their unpredictability. Many species here remember when humanity first arrived. You came to us with weapons already drawn, ready to fight, suspicious of everyone." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some species nodded their agreement. Others remained still. "Therefore," Velther said, his 4 arms spreading wide in a gesture of finality, "the Wordless Confederation, supported by 5 other founding members, presents Resolution 7 Alpha. This resolution requires humanity to decommission 90% of its military fleet. All weapons research facilities must be dismantled. Human space will be subject to regular peacekeeping inspections by designated galactic forces. This is not a punishment. This is a necessity for the safety and stability of all species." The chamber erupted. Some species applauded. Others began arguing among themselves. Park Ji-woo stood perfectly still, her mind racing. 90% of their fleet. All research facilities. Regular inspections. This was not about peacekeeping. This was about control. High Chancellor Brick, a being made of crystalline structures that chimed when he moved, raised one appendage. The chamber fell silent. "The human delegation will be given 72 hours to consult with their homeworld," Breck announced. "After that time, we will vote on Resolution 7 Alpha. The vote will proceed regardless of Earth's response." Park Ji-woo stepped forward. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. "We request permission to address the Senate," she said, her voice steady. "Denied," Velther said quickly. "You will have your chance to speak before the vote. For now, you will listen." Park Ji-woo nodded once and stepped back. Minho leaned close to her ear. "They planned this," he whispered. "They have the votes already." "I know," she whispered back. The session continued for another hour. Species after species stood to voice their support for the resolution. A few spoke against it. The Kelith representative, an insectoid being named Threll, argued that humanity had never attacked another species unprovoked. The Draenei, who communicated through bioluminescent patterns, suggested that humanity's growth should be celebrated, not feared. But their voices were few and quiet. When the session finally ended, Park Ji-woo, Minho, and Daeun returned to their ship. A small diplomatic vessel docked at the Senate station. The moment the door sealed behind them, Daeun activated the secure communications array. Establishing link to Earth High Command, she said. The connection took only seconds. On the screen appeared 5 faces, the military and civilian leadership of Earth. Admiral Kim Tae-young, Director of Defense. President Shin Bora, General Lee Sang-woo, and 2 others whose titles were classified even for most of Earth's government. Park Ji-woo gave her report quickly and efficiently. She explained the resolution, the timeline, the political situation. When she finished, silence filled the connection for nearly 30 seconds. Finally, Admiral Kim spoke. "Your assessment, Ambassador?" "This is the first step," Park Ji-woo said. "If we comply, they will demand more. Within a year, maybe 2, they will have complete control over human space. We will become vassals in everything but name." "And if we refuse?" President Shin asked. "War," Minho said. "They have the ships, the weapons, and the alliances. We would lose." Another long silence. Then one of the classified officials spoke. Her name was Dr. Kwon Min-seok, and very few people knew what she actually did for Earth's government. "How long do we have?" she asked. 72 hours until we must respond," Park Ji-woo said. "Then they vote. Then inspectors arrive. We estimate 4 weeks before the first enforcement teams reach Earth." Dr. Kwon nodded slowly. 4 weeks. That might be enough. Enough for what? Minho asked. "Proceed with protocol silence," Admiral Kim said. His face was grim but determined. "Ambassador, when you return to the Senate, you will accept their terms. You will comply fully. You will not argue. You will not negotiate. You will not threaten. You will simply accept." Park Ji-woo felt her stomach drop. "Sir, if we accept, you will accept," the Admiral repeated. "And then you will remain silent. No protests, no complaints, no diplomatic pressure, nothing. Do you understand?" Park Ji-woo looked at Minho, then at Daeun. Both looked as confused as she felt. But she knew better than to question orders in front of the High Command. "Yes, sir," she said. "We understand." "Good," Admiral Kim said. "Commander Minho, Lieutenant Daeun, you are to observe and report only. No interference with any Senate operations. Just watch and listen. And what will Earth be doing?" Minho asked carefully. Admiral Kim smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Getting ready," he said. The connection ended. The 3 humans sat in silence in their small ship, docked at a station where species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years had just voted to strip humanity of its ability to defend itself. "What is protocol silence?" Daeun asked finally. "I do not know," Park Ji-woo admitted. "But I think we are about to find out." Outside their window, the stars continued to spin in the darkness, uncaring and eternal. Somewhere among them, Earth was receiving its orders. Somewhere, something was beginning, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The 72 hours passed like a slow death. Park Ji-woo spent most of that time in her quarters, reviewing files, preparing statements, and then deleting them all. Nothing she wrote seemed to matter anymore. Her orders were clear. Accept and stay silent. On Earth, something was happening. Daeun monitored the communications channels constantly, but everything seemed normal. News programs discussed the Senate's resolution with concern but not panic. Citizens went about their daily lives. The stock markets barely fluctuated. It was as if the entire planet had decided that the most important political event in human history was not worth getting upset about. "This does not make sense," Dayan said, staring at her screens. "Why are they so calm?" Minho stood behind her, watching the data scroll past. "Maybe they trust the government to handle it." "Do you trust them?" Dayan asked. Minho was quiet for a moment. "I trust that they have a plan. I do not trust that I will like it." When the time came to return to the Senate chamber, Park Ji-woo dressed carefully. She wore a simple suit, dark blue, with Earth's insignia on the collar. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She had spent 20 years in diplomatic service, negotiating treaties, building relationships, fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy. Now she was going to surrender it all with a 30-second speech. The chamber was even more crowded than before. Representatives from species that rarely attended Senate sessions had come to witness what many were calling the taming of humanity. Park Ji-woo could hear the whispers as she walked to her platform. Some were satisfied. Some were pitying. A few sounded almost disappointed, as if they had wanted humanity to fight. Senator Velther stood at the center of the chamber, his 4 arms folded across his chest. He looked triumphant. The human delegation has had adequate time to consult with their homeworld, High Chancellor Breck announced. "Ambassador Park Ji-woo, you may now address the Senate." Park Ji-woo stepped forward. The chamber fell silent. Every being in the room watched her. Cameras from 1,000 worlds recorded her. This moment would be remembered in galactic history as the day humanity bent the knee. She took a breath. "The Terran systems acknowledge the Senate's resolution," she said, her voice clear and strong. "We will comply with your decision. Earth wishes to avoid conflict at all costs." She paused. Velther leaned forward, waiting for the protest, the argument, the desperate plea for mercy. It did not come. "That is all," Park Ji-woo said. Then she turned and walked toward the exit. Minho and Dayan followed. The entire human delegation left the chamber without another word. Behind them, the chamber erupted in confused chatter. This was not how species reacted when their military was being dismantled. Where was the outrage? Where was the defiance? Where was the fighting spirit that humanity was supposed to have? Velther watched them go, his expression unreadable. Something felt wrong, but he could not identify what. "The vote will now proceed," Breck announced that it took less than 10 minutes. 9 species voted in favor of Resolution 7 Alpha. 2 abstained. 1 voted against. The resolution passed with overwhelming support. "It is done," Velther declared. "Humanity will begin immediate compliance. Inspection teams will be dispatched within the week." Back on their ship, Park Ji-woo sat in her chair and closed her eyes. Her hands were shaking. She had just given away everything humanity had built in space, everything they had fought for, and she had done it without a fight. "Ambassador," Dayan said carefully, "are you all right?" "No," Park Ji-woo said honestly. "But it does not matter. Send confirmation to Earth. Tell them it is done." The message went out on the secure channel. The response came back in less than a minute. "Acknowledged. Phase 2 begins now." "Phase 2? Minho repeated. "What is Phase 2? Nobody answered because nobody knew. Over the next few days, Park Ji-woo watched as the galaxy celebrated. News networks praised the Senate's wisdom. Editorials discussed the importance of controlling aggressive species. The Vrelnath Confederation announced that they were organizing the inspection teams personally, as a service to galactic peace. But Park Ji-woo also watched Earth. and what she saw there made no sense. There were no protests, no riots, no angry demonstrations. The government released a simple statement saying they would comply fully with the Senate's decision. Military bases began powering down their defense systems. Shipyards stopped construction on new vessels. Research facilities started uploading their data to Senate servers. Everything appeared to be going according to plan. But Diane noticed something else. There is unusual traffic in human space, she said one evening, pulling up her data screens. Civilian ships. Lots of them. Minho looked at the displays. She was right. Thousands of civilian vessels were moving between Earth and its colonies. Cargo ships, mining vessels, transport barges, even small personal craft. The space lanes were busier than they had been in years. What are they carrying? Park Ji-woo asked. Daeon pulled up the manifest records. Food, water, medical supplies, construction materials, mining equipment, computer systems. All normal civilian goods. Why so much movement? Minho wondered. I do not know, Daeon admitted. But it is all legal. Nothing violates the resolution. Park Ji-woo stared at the data, a strange feeling growing in her chest. It was not quite hope, not quite fear. It was something else entirely. On Earth, Commander In Soo-yuk stood in the command center of the Kepler colony, one of humanity's furthest settlements. He watched as another civilian transport docked at the station. The manifest said it was carrying water purification equipment. The manifest was technically correct. The equipment could purify water. It could also be repurposed into something very different with the right modifications. How many shipments today? He asked his second officer. 47, the officer replied. Same as yesterday. Same as the day before. And the facilities? Construction continues on schedule. The Senate's inspectors will see exactly what we want them to see. Im Soo-yuk nodded. Good. Make sure everyone understands. We follow every rule, every regulation, every letter of that resolution. But only the letter. Yes, sir. Across human space, similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds, hundreds of stations, and thousands of ships. People were working, building, preparing, and they were doing it all in complete silence. The galaxy had expected humanity to scream and fight. Instead, humanity had gone quiet. They worked in their homes, in their factories, in their shipyards. They followed every rule. They obeyed every regulation, and that was what made a few species nervous. Ambassador. Threll of the Caliph contacted Park Ji-woo through a private channel 3 weeks after the vote. I wanted to speak with you, Threll said, his translator converting his clicking sounds into words. To offer my condolences. Thank you, Park Ji-woo said. That is kind of you. I also wanted to warn you, Threll continued. There are rumors. The Vrelneth are planning something else. Another resolution. They want to place human worlds under direct Senate supervision. Park Ji-woo felt her stomach tighten. When? 6 months. Maybe sooner. They say it is for humanity's protection, but we both know what it really is. I see, Park Ji-woo said quietly. Thank you for telling me. Will you fight? Threll asked. If they try to take your worlds? Park Ji-woo was quiet for a long moment. We will do what we must. After the connection ended, she sat alone in her quarters, thinking. The galaxy thought humanity was beaten. They thought the silence meant surrender. They thought compliance meant weakness. They were wrong. Park Ji-woo did not know what protocol silence truly meant. She did not know what Phase 2 was. She did not know what her government was planning, but she knew humans. She had grown up on Earth, lived through wars and peace, seen her species at its worst and its best. And she knew one fundamental truth about her people. Humans did not surrender. They adapted. The galaxy wanted them to disarm. So they would disarm. But the galaxy had made a mistake. They had assumed that weapons made humanity dangerous. They had forgotten that humanity itself was the weapon. 4 weeks after the vote, the inspection teams arrived at Earth. That came in 12 ships. Representatives from 6 different species. The Wordless led the group, of course. Senator Valther himself came to oversee the process, making a great show of his commitment to galactic peace. The media followed his every move, broadcasting across the galaxy as he stepped onto Earth's orbital station. Today marks a new era, he announced to the cameras. An era where wisdom triumphs over aggression, where peace is maintained through vigilance. Park Ji-woo met him at the docking bay with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Welcome to human space," she said. "We are prepared to give you full access to all facilities as outlined in Resolution 7 Alpha." Valther seemed almost disappointed by her cooperation. "I am pleased to see your government is being reasonable." "We have always been reasonable," Park Ji-woo replied. "You simply never gave us a chance to prove it." Over the next 2 weeks, the inspection teams toured Earth's military installations. They watched as warships were decommissioned, their weapon systems removed and destroyed. They verified that research facilities were transmitting their complete datasets to Senate servers. They confirmed that defense platforms around Earth and its colonies were being powered down to minimal operational status. Everything was going exactly according to the resolution. The inspectors found nothing wrong. Every human they encountered was polite, cooperative, and obedient. There were no hidden weapons, no secret facilities, no evidence of resistance. And yet, something felt off. One of the junior inspectors, a being named Krell from a species called the Thonnery, mentioned it to his superior. "The civilian traffic is unusually high," he said, showing his datapad. "Much higher than normal patterns would suggest." His superior, a Wordless officer, barely glanced at the data. "Civilians are allowed to move freely. That is not our concern. But the volume is not a violation of any resolution," the officer interrupted. "Focus on military assets. That is our mandate." Krell said nothing more, but he continued to watch. The civilian ships moved constantly. Cargo vessels traveled between worlds, their manifests all perfectly legal. Mining operations expanded. Construction projects multiplied. Colony populations swelled with new arrivals. All of it legal. All of it civilian. All of it completely within the boundaries of Resolution 7 Alpha. On Mars, a cargo hauler named the Morning Star docked at the main civilian port. Its captain was a woman named Lee Yoonji, 53 years old, a civilian pilot for 26 years. She had never served in the military. She had no combat training. She was, by all accounts, an ordinary citizen. The cargo she carried was water and food supplies for the growing colony. The manifest was accurate. The inspectors who scanned her ship found exactly what was listed. What they did not find were the modifications her crew had made to the ship's engine room. The new power couplings that could redirect reactor output. The reinforced hull sections. The cargo containers that could be reconfigured. In under 30 minutes, what they did not find was that Lee Yoonji and 50,000 other civilian captains like her had been attending encrypted training sessions for the past 4 weeks, learning tactics, learning formations, learning how to turn their vessels into something more than just cargo haulers. None of it was illegal. They were civilians maintaining their ships. That was all. On the Kepler colony, Commander Im Soo-yuk showed a different inspection team through what appeared to be a water processing facility. He explained the filtration systems, the purification protocols, the distribution networks. Everything checked out. The inspectors did not realize that the same facility could process other things, that the equipment could be repurposed, that the civilian workers operating it had other skills they did not mention. Across human space, the pattern repeated. Civilians working, building, learning, preparing, and through it all, the silence continued. Earth's government made no statements beyond routine compliance reports. Military officers said nothing to the press. Even civilian news networks seemed oddly quiet about the whole situation. There were discussions, certainly, but no outrage. No calls for resistance. No political movements demanding action. It was as if humanity had simply accepted its fate. On the Senate station, Park Ji-woo received a visitor. Ambassador Threll came to her quarters late one evening, when the corridors were empty. "I wanted to speak with you privately," Threll said, his insectoid features unreadable, but his translator conveying concern. "Of course," Park Ji-woo said, gesturing for him to enter. "I have been watching," Threll said quietly, "and I think I am beginning to understand." Park Ji-woo said nothing, waiting. "The civilian fleet," Threll continued, "the construction projects, the population movements. You are not surrendering. You are adapting." Park Ji-woo met his compound eyes. "We are complying with the resolution. That is all." "No," Threll said. "That is not all. The resolution forbids military assets. It says nothing about civilians. You are turning your entire population into your defense force." Park Ji-woo remained silent. Threll made a sound that might have been laughter. "Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The Vrelnith thought they were neutering you. Instead, they have forced you to become something far more dangerous." "I do not know what you mean," Park Ji-woo said carefully. "Yes, you do," Threll replied. "But I will not report it. The Caliph have no love for the Vrelnith's games. We voted against the resolution. We will not help them enforce it." "Why are you telling me this?" Park Ji-woo asked. "Because what is coming will change the galaxy," Threll said. "And I want you to know that not all species supported what was done to you. Some of us still remember what it is like to be underestimated." After he left, Park Ji-woo stood alone in her quarters for a long time, looking out at the stars. Meanwhile, deeper in human space, things were accelerating. Dr. Kwon Min-seok stood in a facility that did not officially exist. It was located inside an asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. The Senate's inspectors had never found it because it had never been registered as a military installation. It was, according to all records, a civilian mining operation, which was technically true. They did mine. They just also did other things. "How is the production schedule?" she asked her assistant, a young engineer named Yoon Jisoo. "Ahead of target," Jisoo replied. "We are producing twice as fast as we estimated. The new manufacturing techniques are working better than expected." "And the other facilities?" "All reporting similar numbers. We have 17 sites operational, another 32 coming online in the next 2 weeks. Dr. Kwon allowed herself a small smile. "Then we might actually have enough." "Enough for what?" Jisoo asked. Dr. Kwon looked at her young assistant. Jisoo was 24, brilliant, and had never lived through war. She did not understand what was at stake. "Enough to survive," Dr. Kwon said simply. On Earth, Admiral Kim Tae-young attended a meeting with the Planetary Defense Council. They met in a secure room deep underground, far from any sensors or surveillance. "Status report," he said without preamble. One by one, the officers gave their reports. Fleet readiness, population preparedness, manufacturing capacity, supply lines. Every metric was tracked, analyzed, optimized. "The Vrelnith are getting suspicious," one officer noted. "They have noticed the civilian traffic patterns." "Let them notice," Admiral Kim said. "As long as we violate no actual rules, there is nothing they can do. That was the whole point of protocol silence. We comply completely while preparing completely. How much longer? Another officer asked. The timeline has moved up, Admiral Kim said grimly. Intelligence suggests the Vrelnith will move within 3 months, not 6. They plan to present a new resolution for direct occupation of human space. The room fell silent. Then we will be ready in 3 months, Admiral Kim said. We have to be. 8 weeks after the inspection teams arrived, they departed. Senator Velther gave another speech, praising humanity's compliance and the wisdom of the Senate. This process has shown that even the most aggressive species can be brought to reason, he declared. Humanity has proven that they can be civilized. Park Ji-woo smiled and said nothing. The inspectors left, satisfied that humanity was properly defanged. They returned to their worlds and reported success. Resolution 7 Alpha was working perfectly. Humanity was disarmed, compliant, and no longer a threat. The galaxy relaxed. The crisis was over, but in the darkness between the stars, humanity continued to work. In complete silence, with perfect discipline, they prepared. They had been given a choice, surrender or resist. They had chosen a third option that they would comply. And in complying, they would show the galaxy what humanity truly meant. The storm was coming. The galaxy just did not know it yet. The message arrived at the human delegation. Ship without warning got. It was not a formal diplomatic communication. It was not even on official channels. It was a direct transmission from Senator Velther to Ambassador Park Ji-woo. Sent on a private frequency, the text was simple and brutal. The Senate has approved preliminary discussions on Resolution 8 Delta. Resolution will place all human worlds under protective Senate custody for a period of no less than 50 years. This is for your own benefit. You have 24 hours to prepare your response. After that, the Vrelnith fleet will enter the Sol system to begin enforcement procedures. Consider your options carefully. Park Ji-woo read the message 3 times. Then she forwarded it to Earth without comment. Minho stood behind her, reading over her shoulder. They are not even pretending anymore, he said quietly. No, Park Ji-woo agreed. This was always the plan. The disarmament was just the first step. Now they take everything. What will Earth do? Diane asked from her station. I do not know, Park Ji-woo admitted. But I think we are about to find out. The response from Earth came in less than 5 minutes. It was not from Admiral Kim or President Shin. It was from someone whose name Park Ji-woo did not recognize. Director An Hai-jin, with a title that simply said, Civilian Coordination. The message contained only 3 words. Let them come. Minho stared at the screen. That is it? That is the entire response? That is the response, Park Ji-woo confirmed. 20 hours later, the Vrelnith fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. It was an impressive force. 28 warships, each one a masterpiece of galactic military engineering. They had weapons that could crack planets, shields that could withstand stars. They represented thousands of years of technological advancement. They outnumbered Earth's remaining military vessels by a factor of 10. The human fleet, compliant with Resolution 7 Alpha, consisted of exactly 3 operational warships and a handful of defense platforms running on minimal power. It should have been a slaughter. The Vrelnith fleet commander, a 4-armed warrior named Sekthar, opened a communication channel to Earth. This is the Vrelnith Enforcement Fleet. We are here to implement Senate authority over the Sol system. Power down all remaining defensive systems and prepare for occupation. You have 1 hour to comply. The response from Earth came from Admiral Kim Tae-young. We acknowledge your message. However, we must inform you that Earth's military assets are already in compliance with Resolution 7 Alpha. We have nothing further to power down. Sekfar's mandibles clicked in annoyance. Then you will allow our forces to enter orbit and establish control. That, Admiral Kim said slowly, is not going to happen. Sekfar's 4 eyes narrowed. You have 3 military vessels. We have 28. This is not a negotiation. No, Admiral Kim agreed. It is not. Then something happened that made every sensor operator on every Vrelnith ship freeze, in disbelief. From behind the moon, a ship appeared. Then another. Then 10. Then 100. Then 1,000. They kept coming. From the asteroid belt, vessels emerged like a swarm of insects. From the orbit of Jupiter, from the rings of Saturn, from stations around Mars, from the surface of Earth itself, they came. Cargo haulers, mining barges, colony transports, water tankers, construction vessels, personal yachts, passenger liners, survey ships, even old shuttle craft that looked like they should have been scrapped decades ago. Every single civilian vessel in human space was moving toward the Vrelnith fleet. Sekfar stared at his tactical display in confusion. What is this? A civilian evacuation? His sensor officer's voice was shaking. Commander, the readings are wrong. These ships, they are not standard civilian vessels anymore. Explain, Sekthar demanded. They are armed. All of them. The cargo haulers have mass drivers. The mining ships have cutting lasers that read as weapon grade. The transports have missile tubes. The water tankers have railgun batteries. Every single civilian vessel has been weaponized. Sekthar felt something cold settle in his chest. How many? The sensor officer's hands trembled over his controls. I am reading over 4,000 vessels, Commander. And more are still emerging from hiding. 4,000, Sekthar repeated in a whisper. On the bridge of the cargo hauler, Morning Star, Captain Lee Yunji checked her systems one final time. The modifications her crew had spent the last 12 weeks installing were all green. The mining equipment that she had been hauling had been repurposed into weapons. The cargo containers had been reconfigured into launch platforms. Her ship, which had never been in a battle, was now a warship. Around her, 4,000 other civilian captains were doing the same thing. This is Admiral Kim Tae-young to all civilian vessels. The communication came over every human ship. You know your orders. You know your positions. Remember your training. Remember why we do this. For Earth, for humanity, for our children who will not grow up as slaves. Lee Yunji took a deep breath and keyed her microphone. Morning Star acknowledging. Ready to engage. 4,000 other voices echoed her words. Fleet Commander Zhang Hana, commanding one of Earth's 3 remaining military vessels, opened a channel to the Vrelnith fleet. Commander Sekthar, I believe you wanted to discuss our compliance with Resolution 7 Alpha. Sekthar could barely find his voice. What is this? This, Zhang Hana said calmly, is our civilian population. As you can see, they are not part of our military fleet. They are ordinary citizens. Grandmothers, teachers, cargo pilots, miners, colonists. They are not soldiers. Therefore, they are not subject to Resolution 7 Alpha. They are armed. Sekthar protested. Yes, Zhang Hana agreed. They have chosen to arm their vessels with civilian equipment. Mining lasers, construction tools, industrial cutters, cargo launchers, all perfectly legal civilian equipment that happens to be very effective in combat situations. But that is their choice as free citizens. The resolution required us to disarm our military. It said nothing about our civilians. On the Senate station, Park Ji-woo listened to the exchange and felt tears streaming down her face. Not tears of sadness. Tears of pride. They did it, she whispered. They actually did it. Minho stood beside her, his military bearing finally cracking into a genuine smile. We gave them our swords. So they picked up their plowshares and sharpened them. Dayon was frantically recording everything. The sensor readings are incredible. Some of these civilian vessels have weapons that rival military-grade equipment. How did they develop this so fast? They had 12 weeks and the entire population working together, Minho said. Never underestimate what humans can accomplish when their survival is at stake. Back in the Sol system, Sekthar was facing an impossible decision. His 28 warships were superior to any individual human vessel, but he was outnumbered over 100 to 1. And the humans were not posturing. They were not threatening. They were simply waiting in formation, ready to fight. Commander, his tactical officer said quietly, if we engage, we will win eventually. But the casualties? We could lose half our fleet. Maybe more. These humans are not professional soldiers, but there are so many of them. Sekthar looked at his display. At the swarm of civilian vessels, each one crewed by ordinary people who had decided they would rather die than submit. Grandmothers at weapon consoles. Students manning engine rooms. Families aboard ships, ready to fight together. He thought of Senator Valthur's words. Humanity has been civilized. They are no longer a threat. He had been so wrong. Open a channel to Senator Valthur, Sekthar said quietly. When the connection established, Valthur's voice was sharp. Why have you not begun the occupation? Because, Sekthar said, looking at the tactical display, you sent me to disarm a military. What I found was an entire population ready to die for their freedom. I did not sign up to slaughter civilians. They are armed civilians. They are combatants. No, Sekthar said firmly. They are people defending their homes, and I will not order my forces to attack them. He closed the channel before Valthur could respond. Fleet, he announced on the general channel. We are withdrawing from the Sol system. All vessels reverse course. The Vrelnith fleet turned and left without firing a single shot. On the Morning Star, Li Yunji watched them go on her sensors. Around her crew began to cheer. Across 4,000 civilian vessels, the same celebration was happening. They had won without fighting. They had defended their world with nothing but determination and courage. Admiral, Qin Taeyong's voice came over the general channel. All vessels stand down but remain at ready stations. Today, you proved something that the galaxy needed to see. That free people cannot be conquered. That citizens who choose to defend themselves are stronger than any army. You are all heroes. Li Yunji wiped tears from her eyes and smiled. A galaxy would never underestimate. Humanity again. The emergency session of the Galactic Senate began in chaos. Representatives from 12 species shouted at each other across the chamber. Some demanded immediate military action against humanity. Others called for negotiations. A few, like Ambassador Threll of the Keleth, openly laughed at the Vrelnith's humiliation. Park Ji-woo entered the chamber with Minho at her side. For the first time in months, she walked with her head held high. The whispers followed her as she made her way to Earth's platform, but they were different now. Not pity, not contempt, something else. Something that might have been respect, or might have been fear. Senator Valthur stood at the center of the chamber, his forearms gesturing wildly. His shimmer skin had lost its luster. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. This is an outrage, he declared. Humanity has violated the spirit of Resolution 7 Alpha. They have built a military force disguised as civilians. High Chancellor Breck chimed softly, calling for order. The Senate will hear from all parties before making any determinations. Senator Velther, you will present your case. Velther pointed one arm at Park Ji-woo. They claimed to have complied with the resolution while secretly arming their entire population. They turned cargo vessels into warships. They weaponized civilian equipment. They created an army while pretending to disarm. This is deception of the highest order. Is that all? Breck asked. Is that not enough? Velther shouted. They made a mockery of galactic law. Ambassador Park Ji-woo, Breck said, you may now respond. Park Ji-woo stepped forward. The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to her. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. What she said in the next few minutes would determine humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. She took a breath and began. Honored representatives, Senator Velther accuses humanity of deception. But let us examine what actually happened. Resolution 7 Alpha required us to decommission 90% of our military fleet. We did so. Every military vessel we were required to disarm was dismantled. The inspectors verified this personally. You armed civilians instead. Velther interrupted. Yes, Park Ji-woo said calmly. We did. Because Resolution 7 Alpha said nothing about civilians. It spoke only of military assets. You wanted to strip away our military. You succeeded. You took our swords, our warships, our professional soldiers. Everything you asked for, we gave you. She paused, looking around the chamber. But you made a fundamental mistake. You believed that by removing our military, you would remove our ability to defend ourselves. You thought weapons made us dangerous. You thought organization made us a threat. You were wrong. Park Ji-woo's voice grew stronger. What makes humanity dangerous is not our weapons. It is not our ships. It is not our soldiers. What makes us dangerous is that every single human being, from the youngest child to the oldest grandmother, understands that freedom is worth fighting for, that some things are worth dying for, that no external power has the right to tell us how to live. You asked us to disarm, she continued. We complied. But you never asked us to surrender our will. You never asked us to abandon our children's future. You never asked us to give up our freedom. And so we found another way. Senator Velther's voice dripped with contempt. You turned your civilians into soldiers. That is militarization. No, Park Ji-woo said firmly. We gave our civilians the choice to defend themselves. And they chose to do so. Every captain who armed their ship did so voluntarily. Every person who learned to fight made that decision freely. We did not conscript them. We did not force them. We simply gave them the option, and they chose courage over compliance. She turned to face the entire chamber. You wanted humanity to be weak, to be controlled, to be civilized as you define civilization. But you forgot something important. You forgot that a truly free people cannot be disarmed by decree. You can take away their weapons, and they will make new ones. You can take away their military, and they will become their own army. You can take away everything except their will to survive, and that will alone is enough. Ambassador Threll clicked his mandibles in what his translator rendered as applause. Well said, Ambassador. Well said indeed. A representative from the Draenei, whose bioluminescent patterns pulsed with agreement, spoke next. The Draenei Collective recognizes that humanity acted within the boundaries of Resolution 7 Alpha. They violated no law. They simply refused to become victims. This sets a dangerous precedent, another species argued. If we allow this, every species will arm their civilians. Then perhaps, Park Ji-woo said quietly, you should not pass resolutions designed to make species defenseless. The chamber erupted again. Arguments flew back and forth. Some species saw Park Ji-woo's point. Others remained adamant that humanity had somehow cheated. Finally, High Chancellor Breck called for silence. "The Senate must decide," Breck announced. "Do we consider humanity's actions a violation of Resolution 7 Alpha, or do we acknowledge that they complied with the letter of the law while finding their own path to security?" "I propose a new resolution," Park Ji-woo said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "One that will benefit the entire galaxy." Velther laughed bitterly. "You propose? You have no standing here anymore." "Then let me earn it back," Park Ji-woo said. She pulled out a data crystal and held it up. In the 12 weeks since Resolution 7 Alpha passed, humanity developed new manufacturing techniques. Methods that allowed us to produce weapons, modifications, and equipment at speeds the galaxy has never seen. We did in 3 months what should have taken 3 years. She could see she had their attention now. These techniques can revolutionize production across the galaxy. Medical equipment, construction tools, food processing, communication systems. Everything can be produced faster, cheaper, more efficiently. We are willing to share this technology with the galactic community. In exchange for what? A skeptical representative asked. In exchange for the repeal of Resolution 7 Alpha, Park Ji-woo said, and the passage of a new treaty. One that recognizes every species' inherent right to self-defense. One that prohibits forced disarmament. One that acknowledges that security comes not from controlling others, but from respecting their right to protect themselves. The chamber fell silent. It was a bold proposal. Humanity was offering something valuable, but only if they got their freedom back. Velther's 4 arms trembled with rage. "You would blackmail the Senate?" "No," Park Ji-woo said. "I would offer a trade. Knowledge for freedom. Technology for respect. Is that not what the galactic community is supposed to be? An exchange of ideas, cultures, and benefits?" High Chancellor Breck was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "The proposal has merit. We will debate and vote. Senator Velther, despite your objections, you cannot deny that humanity's technology would be beneficial. And their argument about self-defense is not without merit." The debate lasted for hours. Species after species spoke. Some supported humanity. Some opposed. But slowly, gradually, the tide began to turn. The Keleth spoke in favor. The Draenei added their support. Even some of the species that had originally voted for Resolution 7 Alpha began to see the wisdom in Park Ji-woo's proposal. Finally, the vote was called. Resolution 7 Alpha was repealed by a vote of 8-4, the Treaty of Mutual Defense, recognizing every species' right to self-defense and prohibiting forced disarmament. Passed by a vote of 10-2, humanity's manufacturing technology would be shared with the galactic community. Park Ji-woo stood on Earth's platform and felt the weight lift from her shoulders. They had done it. They had turned defeat into victory. They had taken the galaxy's attempt to control them and transformed it into a triumph of freedom. Senator Velther stormed from the chamber without a word. His political career was over. History would remember him not as the leader who civilized humanity, but as the fool who underestimated them. After the session ended, Park Ji-woo returned to her ship. Minho and Dayan were waiting for her. "We won," Dayan said, still seeming shocked. "Yes," Park Ji-woo agreed. "We did. How did you know they would accept the trade?" Minho asked. Park Ji-woo smiled. "Because the galaxy is full of old species, comfortable in their ways. We offered them something they could not refuse: progress, innovation, the possibility of improvement. They may have wanted to control us, but they wanted to advance more." 3 months later, Captain Leonji stood on the bridge of her cargo hauler, the Morning Star. She was making a routine supply run to the Kepler colony. Her ship still had all its modifications. The weapons were still functional, though powered down. She would never remove them. Across human space, 4,000 other civilian captains did the same. They went back to their regular jobs, hauling cargo, transporting passengers, mining asteroids. But they remained ready. Always ready. Earth's military, freed from the constraints of Resolution 7 Alpha, began rebuilding. But they did so with a new understanding. The real strength of humanity was not in professional soldiers. It was in free people who chose to defend themselves. In the Senate chamber, a new motto was inscribed on the walls, written in every galactic language. A free people cannot be conquered. It had been humanity's lesson to the galaxy. Commander Han Mino stood in the observation deck of the Senate station, looking out at the stars. Park Ji-woo joined him, 2 cups of tea in her hands. She offered him one. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About how close we came to losing everything," Mino said quietly. "If protocol silence had failed, if the civilians had not responded, if the galaxy had called our bluff." "It was not a bluff," Park Ji-woo said. "That is why it worked. The civilians were ready to die. Every single one of them meant it. The galaxy saw that, and they backed down. Do you think they will try again?" Minho asked. Park Ji-woo sipped her tea, considering. "Perhaps. But if they do, they will remember what happened this time. They will remember that humanity does not surrender. We adapt. We overcome. We survive." "We do," Minho agreed. Far away, on Earth, Admiral Kim Tae-young addressed a room full of officers. "The galaxy tried to take our teeth," he said. "We grew claws instead. They tried to cage us. We slipped through the bars. They will try again, in different ways, with different methods. And each time, we will find a way to remain free." He looked around the room at the faces of humanity's defenders. "Because that is what we do. We are humans. We bend, but we do not break. We comply, but we do not surrender. We adapt, we innovate, and we survive. Remember that. Teach it to your children. Make sure every generation understands. Freedom is not given. It is not granted. It is not a gift from any government or any senate. Freedom is something you take, something you defend, something you die for, if necessary. And humanity will never, ever give it up." The officers stood as one and saluted. And across the galaxy, the word spread. Not through official channels or diplomatic communiques, but through whispers and stories and legends. The story of the species that was ordered to disarm and responded with silence. The species that complied with every rule while preparing to fight. The species that turned civilians into an army and defended their world without firing a shot. The species that proved, once and for all, that you should fear the quiet ones. Because when humans go silent, they are not surrendering, they are planning.